Welcome everyone to the first ever episode of Bryno's Homebrews here on Bryno's World. As some of you may or may not know, I have been into homebrewing for a few years now. Actually, like maybe 10 or so years, but I've really gotten into it the last 2 or 3. And I'm going to make a batch for you right now. Not like there's a whole lot of anything else going on right now. But anyway, the batch I'm making right now, it's going to be an extract beer. It's going to be a Scotch Ale, as that's one of my dad's favorite kinds of beers, and my mom's as well. So I figured, why not make a batch for that? Well, I've just got the water heating up right now. I haven't had a chance to check its temperature yet. It was at 140 before I went on the air. It's probably super hot now. It's a little hotter than I'd like. 173 and climbing. I want to get it to 160 so I can put these grains in to give it some flavor and color. This is actually 8 ounces of roasted barley. But as soon as this cools down to 160, I'll put this in here for about 30 minutes and then we'll go on from there. Well, it's now at just a hair under 160 degrees, so I'm going to go ahead and put these 8 ounces of roasted barley in. Just swirl it around a little bit and give it 30 minutes. Oh, looking at the beer, it's already getting a nice dark color. But anyway, I'll come back in 30 minutes and see what's going on. Well, it's been 30 minutes and this here bag of grains has been steeping in there, and the beer is virtually jet black, which is what I didn't expect, but maybe it'll be different when I pour it to a glass later on. But anyway, now I'm cranking the heat back up to try to bring it up to a boil. And it's at this point where we're going to add both malt extract and, for this batch, all of our hops, which is just 1 ounce of East Kent Goldings. I'm using EKG because it's going to be a Scotch Ale, wee heavy, so we don't want too much hops there. It's going to be very, very malty, which is why I've got 12 pounds of dry malt extract there. It's going to go in there. So let's put them in. Alright, 12 pounds. Yes, that's a huge amount for any kind of beer, but this is supposed to be a Scotch Ale, a wee heavy. And it's not uncommon for these beers to be over 10% ABV, which is what I'm shooting for with this. So I'm going to try and stir this up until it's all dissolved in. I'm going to crank up the heat a little bit as well with the propane. Keep stirring until all this malt extract is dissolved. Still some chunks in here, but that'll be good. I think that's good enough for now. Now it's at this point where most homebrewers would wait until this wort gets to a boil and then drop these hops in. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put the hops in right now. It's a technique called first wort hopping, which some people say produces a better flavor, maybe a more subtle flavor. Some say they can't really tell much of a difference. The reason I do it is because I've noticed that when I do that, it tends to not boil over, which is something that to me is desirable. So 1 ounce, the entire 1 ounce of East Kent Goldings in the wort. I think it has something to do with the acids in the hops that interact with the sugary stuff in the wort and just prevents it from boiling over. It prevents it from bubbling up, I don't know. But I'm going to wait till this gets to a boil and then start the timer. I'm going to boil this for 90 minutes. Yeah, that might be quite a lot, but it's a very mild hop, so I don't really expect this to get too bitter. So now we wait until this boils. Okay, it's been 90 minutes now. The beer in Potentia is done boiling. The next step is to reduce the temperature of this to room temperature as quickly as possible. To do that, I will use this steel washing basin and that bag of ice. Let's get started. Right, that should help in cooling it down a bit. While we're waiting for that to cool, let's take care of the brew bucket inside. Okay, while the wort is chilling, let's clean out our brew bucket right here. As you can see, it's kind of dirty, which is absolutely not what we want if we're going to brew beer. This has to be completely and totally clean and sanitized. It's one of the most important things to consider when making a beer. So first things first, I'm going to clean it using some regular handy dandy off the shelf oxygen cleaner. Now we gotta rinse this out because with regular oxygen cleaner, you gotta rinse it out. It does not work well with normal beer or taste good with beer. Not that I've ever tried, but that's just what it is. Okay, our bucket's clean, so we can ready to brew, right? No, because now we've cleaned it, now we have to sanitize it, make sure that there's no bacteria or anything left inside this bucket. Yes, that's also critical because if there's some weird bacteria in there, the beer could become sour and, well, bleh. Let's do that. To do that, I will use a very popular product called Star San, which is, I think, let's see, mostly phosphoric acid, and that will kill the bacteria. Just a little bit of this stuff and some water here and we should be good to go. Squeegee, squeegee, squeegee. This stuff will produce a very heavy foam, so you'll have to deal with that. I'm going to fill this up to about 1 gallon, then give it another shake, and then dump as much of it as I can. Now the instructions and everything says don't fear the foam. It probably doesn't hurt at all if you just leave bits of foam in there, but I like to get rid of it all anyway, but that's just me. And now we have ourselves a properly sanitized and cleaned brew bucket. Let's go check on the wort. Okay, so the unfermented beer, or wort, has chilled to the right temperature. And now it's time to put it into the brew bucket. Now we're going to do something a little differently because, as you may have noticed, this little strainer here on top of it, that's because inside the wort there's a bunch of ground up hops and such that we don't really want inside the beer. I mean, you can leave it in there if you want, I just choose not to, and this is my way of getting rid of it. So I'm going to run all 3 or 4 whatever gallons that's left of this wort through the strainer and then top it off to 5 gallons. So here we go. This may take a couple tries. That looks dark. Extremely dark. Here we go. So now this is the part where the hops sort of clog things up a little bit. I like to use a spoon to agitate this a little bit and clear the pores of the filter out, or the strainer. I might get a couple pieces in there, but that's not too big of a deal. I just want to get the main stuff out. I think that's good enough for now. Let's finish this up. Junk is out, wort is in. Now you may not be able to see this here on screen, but I'm looking and the wort is just at this point here roughly 4.5 gallons. Now I put 5 gallons of water in this initially. I expected a whole lot more to boil off, but I think some of it was displaced by the dry malt extract that I put in here. So I've got about half a gallon to go until I top this off. So let's take care of that. Now, veteran homebrewers might be saying, why the hell are you using tap water? Well, technically I am, but I'm also not. I'm running it through this Bryno filter here. I'm using this because I don't want to be that guy that takes 6 gallons of water during these difficult times, if you will. So for this beer, I think just using filtered water from the tap will be just fine. Alright, let's top it off. Okay, now that that's in the bucket, there's a couple more steps I need to do before I get the yeast in. First thing, something that I've learned what to do is just basically stir the crap out of this, because one thing that I've learned when I have made beer in the past, sometimes the gravity readings were lower than I expected, but I think that's because I got the wort maybe too cold, and therefore some of the sugary bits sank down toward the bottom, and there gave me some inaccurate readings. Plus, you also want to oxygenate the beer, the wort, if you will, just to make it ferment better. And giving it a good stir will do a good job of that. Okay, now that we've stirred the crap out of the wort, the next thing to do is to measure its original gravity. That's to take some of the wort here, put it into this test tube, put a hydrometer in it, measure the reading along with the temperature, and then we'll be ready to inoculate our beer. I'm going to fill this up almost all the way, but not totally. Two ladles, I think that'll do. So here is the wort in my test tube, and one thing I'm not happy with is this bit of foam here, which will make the reading harder to read. But let's do what we can. All right, looking at this, it's consistently reading 65.4 degrees Fahrenheit and 18.6 degrees Celsius. So that's our initial temperature, which is important. And now to actually measure the gravity of the beer as is. Take out my hydrometer. And now see if I can get rid of some of these bubbles so I can get a clear reading. Oh my goodness, this is going to be very, very heavy. But that's what I expected. Oh my god, this is going to be over 100. I'm going to call it 1.112. That's what it looks like on here. Now, here's the million-dollar question. What the hell does that all mean? Well, the gravity of a beer is indicative of how much alcohol the beer can have. As the yeast here continues to consume the sugars inside the alcohol, it's going to reduce in gravity. And it's the difference in gravity between the beginning and the end which is going to determine how much alcohol is in it at the end. Now, since the gravity here is 1.112, if, and that's a big if every single sugar in that beer fermented into alcohol, we would get a beer with a final ABV of, good lord, 14.7%. Good God. Now, I know that not all the sugars are going to convert into alcohol. That's fine, but I'm trying to hit somewhere between maybe 10 and 11% with this wee heavy here. So, let's get the yeast party started. I've got a yeast starter here that I prepared about 5 days ago using a yeast, liquid yeast, based on a Scotch Ale, which is what I wanted. And so now, let's get the party rolling. Oh goodness, that smells like alcoholic yeasty goodness to me. Oh, let me swirl it, make sure we get all the yeasty bits in there. Now to make this yeast starter, I just put in 2 cups of water, half a cup of the dry malt extract, and the entire pouch of the liquid yeast. Put this airlock in and just let it sit for about 5 days while it just consumed the sugars and such. And of course, yes, I did clean and sanitize this before I got started. So, last step, let's seal this thing up and put it away. Alright, so the top is on, now the airlock. And now we have a fermentation vessel right here. And I envision in about 2 weeks, I'm going to take this and put it into a secondary fermenter, get rid of some of the yeasty junk that's going to be at the bottom, and it will be there. After that, I'm going to put it in my keg and let the party get going. I've said party a whole lot of times, and well, you can't have a party without some beer. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Bryno's World. Thank you all very much for watching. First episode I've done in about maybe 3 months, so hopefully it won't take another 3 months to get the next episode done. If you like these videos, leave a comment, share, subscribe, like the video, blah, 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 all that wonderful stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.